Well, welcome to Tuesday Motivation and Conversation. Listen, we back at it. It's Tuesday. It's a chilly Tuesday here in the DFW Metroplex, and wherever you are, I hope you're safe, you're warm, and all the things. Uh, don't want to delay time tonight. I want to jump right into it. We've been in this series on self work framework. And the deeper I dive, oh man, it's so much to unpack. And so we've gone through the self work framework. And so if you're just joining us for the first time, then I want to do a little bit of a high level kind of summary just to kind of catch you up. And of course, you can always go back and review previous episodes so that you can kind of get up to speed. I started this conversation January 1st, 2025. And one of the things is it's my wheelhouse, it's my niche when it comes to clarity coaching, vision, strategic management, that kind of thing around vision and helping people to really get a plan of action in place for executing whatever their vision is. But first, it's important that we get clarity because that's going to be the compass for helping you to make decisions, directing you, guiding you, so forth and so on. And we'll get into that in a minute. And so, in having that conversation, I started with this self work framework. And I realized even at the onset that there was a lot to cover. So, in the process of preparing for Pen to Paper 2025, I discovered that there were some other things that were going to be necessary for the course over the course of the year to just help people to really work through that process and get to that next place. And not only that, in the season we're in, you're going to need to have some clarity. And you're also going to need this self work framework. And number three, you're going to need a strategy. I don't care who you are and what you're doing. I don't care if it's on the low end, the high end, in the middle, income wise, or whatever. You need a strategy for how you're going to function and how you're going to flow in this season. And that's just point blank in the story. You need a strategy. And so, in order to establish strategy, you need to first have some clarity about who you are, where you are, and why you're where you are, and what is it that your purpose to do in this season. Every season is different. But in this season, it requires you to have strategy. And if you're an entrepreneur, one of the things I say about whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, you're just starting out, whatever the case may be, being an entrepreneur is a different kind of situation. There are all kinds of things that happen um, when it comes to being a full-fledged entrepreneur. And so you got to know if that's you, if that's your thing, if that's really where you're supposed to be. And if you have clarity, then you know. If you're a little confused about that and things are a little fuzzy, then it's possible that that may not be it. You may be bivocational, right? You may be a parapreneur, which means you work a little bit in corporate and you also kind of do your own thing, which is nothing wrong with any of that. But at the end of the day, there are different dynamics that occur when you are full-time entrepreneur and when you are a parapreneur and so forth and so on. So there's some different dynamics. But at any rate, point of the matter is that clarity is necessary in this season in order to have a strategy. And so I want to just kind of take a few minutes to kind of catch you up as to where we started out at and some of the things that we have talked about so far and make sure that you're not totally in the dark. And then for those of you who are stopping in, we have a couple that kind of stop in on a regular basis. Listen, share it and invite somebody else to the conversation tonight. Um, I want to try to kind of flip back and forth. I don't have my other device handy, so I can see if you are in the chat and if there are any questions. So I'll check periodically back and forth to see what we got. going on in the chat. So if you're checking in with me tonight, make sure you say hello to me in the chat. And definitely if you have any questions, put them in the chat and I'll check in periodically so that I can respond to any questions that there may be. And if you don't have one tonight, you can always come back to this particular episode and you can put your question in the chat and that'll come to me and I will definitely respond to you. So let's get into it. Okay. The self-work framework. There are 5 areas that are involved in this framework. So you have self-reflection, you have self-awareness, you have self-knowledge, self-direction, and self-leadership. And so let me just kind of go just give you little quick definitions here. So self-reflection, that's where we kind of get hung up. That's the first thing out the gate, right? That's the thing that helps us to really level ourselves and get on an even plane so that we can deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because whether that is relational, whether that is business, whether that's family, whether that's ministry, whether that's, you know, uh, volunteer work or nonprofit or whatever, you need to self-reflect and determine where you are, why you're there, what went well, what didn't go well, how could I improve this? If I had done this a little bit different, maybe I could have done this, that, or the third. Could have handled that differently. I should have said this in this way. I should have taken a little bit more time here. I was triggered by this particular thing, or this made me feel some kind of way. All of that is important. And why is that important? Because as you move forward, you need to build up your self-awareness of who you are and how you function. And if you don't do self-reflection, you can't do that part. And then number two, if you don't confront the challenges that you've had, you can't improve upon them. So it's going to be really, really important that you do the self-reflection. That kicks off everything, especially when you're trying to get clear about who you are and why you are, right? This all leads to purpose, right? So the self-reflection gets you to having better self-awareness, which means I'm aware of my triggers. I'm aware what, my traumas are. I'm aware what causes me to be a little bit offended, or I'm aware of what creates confrontation for me. I'm aware of environments that are not conducive for me to function well in. All the things that you need to be aware of about you, not somebody else, but you, because you can't control other people, but you can control yourself. You can't necessarily discipline other people, but you can discipline you. And so if you have you under control and you have a strategy for yourself, then that is going to help you to have better self-knowledge. So when we self-reflect, our awareness increases. When we have better self-awareness, our self-knowledge increases, meaning we know ourselves better today than we did yesterday if we do self-reflection and how we operate and how we function in those circumstances. So this is what leads us to the fourth component of this self-work framework, and that is self-direction. It's important because that's going to help you make some good decisions. That's going to help you to take actions accordingly. It's going to give you the ability to be able to back up off of something if it's not time to do it, or press the gas if it's time to move forward. Because you have done the work and you know where you are, why you're where you are, and what it is that your goals are, your objectives are, and you know what you need to do in the time and season that you're in. Make sense? Okay, let's move forward. So after we have gotten done good self-reflection that increased our self-awareness, helped us to increase our self-knowledge. Now we got good self-direction. That helps us to be a good self-leader. So it gives us good self-leadership. So that's the self-work framework that we've been talking about since January 1st. And when I tell you it's enough to unpack, it's enough to unpack. Now I do want to share with you one of and I don't know if I did this early, but I just want to throw this in. So the vision framework, and this is just to keep kind of, give you something to kind of go along with your self-reflection and your vision, because we're still in the first quarter of the year. Um, you can take this, and of course, I'm going to kind of flow through these. You might want to go back and listen to it again and jot these things down. But here's a framework, and this is a framework that I shared during the pen and paper experience this year. So it's vision. So the first thing we got to do is we got to be able to visualize. You got to be able to see it. If you can't see it, you can't see it. So you got to define that ultimate goal, and you got to create a vivid picture what that looks like to you, what does success look like to you based on what it is that you are seeing. And this seeing is a spiritual seeing. So at the end of the day, I ain't playing no games about that. It's a visual seeing. I mean, a spiritual vision, and it's a spiritual seeing. So it's what do you see spiritually? That means what do you see internally? This is not tangible, but you have to see it in a way that you can touch it. That makes sense. Okay. Then you got the I. So that's identify. Break down the vision into clear, specific objectives. So when you hear project management, they talk about methodologies, they talk about waterfall, they talk about um, agile. That just means we're breaking it down into smaller, more manageable pieces that I can do a piece at a time. And incrementally, I'm going to get to an end goal, right? So that's getting you from revelation to manifestation. And what do you need to do to get there? So those are the 2 points in between. Number three, you got the S. So that means simplify. Focus on essential priorities. Make sure that you're doing the main. It's this saying. I don't know if your mama said or your grandma's keep the main thing the main thing. So if you keep your priorities in check and stay focused on the things that you need to do and not the things you want to do, then you'll see yourself making more progress, even if it's incremental and it's steps at a time until you get to that place. Making sure that you're eliminating distractions and unnecessary steps. So keep it simple, right? And if it means it's just like, point A to point B, well, you might have an interruption where you can't do a straight line from point A to point B, but you can determine a route that you only got to make two turns, right? So keep it as simple as possible. Uh, then four, we have the other I, which is implement. This is the part that trips people up all the time. We talk a good game. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and I say I'm gonna never gets done. Never gets it done. But implementation is the thing that hangs us up most times. We can talk a good game. We go and get all the information. We go to all the events and conferences and workshops and this and that and the other. But then when it's time to implement, we fall off the wagon. Create actionable steps. Start small. This is the thing. And a lot of times we fall off because we start too high. Start small and work your way up. Don't despise the word lets us know. Don't despise the day of small beginnings. So start small and get yourself there. If you just started on a project and somebody else been working on it 10 years, well, they supposed to be where they at on it for 10 years. It would be a problem if they've been working for 10 years and they in the same place you are. But you have to start where you start so that you can get to the place that you need to be at. So start small, be consistent, and that builds momentum. And remember, I always say that momentum is not about how fast you go. It's about a steady pace. And when you have a steady pace and the consistency, it will keep you in the game. I don't care if you're not making but say consistently 1,200, let's just throw out a number, $1,200 a month. Well, that's $1,200 a month that you've consistently determined how to make. So if you've determined how to make consistently 1,200, you can figure out how to consistently make 24 or 36 or 6,400 a month or whatever the case may be. Um, or it could be 7,500 or 10,000, whatever it is. If you will be consistent with it and implement that, that's what makes a difference. So maintain a consistent flow so that you can build momentum. Then we have number five is the O is organize. Develop a structure or a system. I talk about structures, strategies, systems. Important key will help you get from A to B. It'll keep you flowing and keep you going if you're organized. Develop a structure or a system to track your progress. So there's schedules, there's checklists, there's tools, whatever. Determine that. Here's the deal. A lot of time, you know how some people um, have garages and they can't put their cars in their garages because they got all the tools, all the gadgets, all the things, and probably don't use half of them. Because every time we hear something, every time we see something, and I'm equating it now to knowledge, because a lot of people who flow here are knowledge preneurs or content-based entrepreneurs to some degree. When you get through gathering everything, what are the tools that you use on a consistent basis? That's what needs to be in your toolkit. Those are the things, those are the tools you need on a consistent basis to make sure you can function and do what you need to do. So if I'm trying to cut a yard and keep my hedges neat, I need 12,000 tools. I need a lawnmower, I need an edger, I need clippers or an electric clippers or saw, whatever they trimmers or whatever that is. Need 25 different pieces of lawn equipment to keep a yard neat and to keep the bushes neat, right? So we have to be mindful about, do we need everything that we go get? And then it's nothing wrong with taking in information, but know that you won't use every piece of information that you're taking in. So organize what you need and then categorize and file away the things that you don't. All right. So, and strategize with the rest. Then we have N, which is navigate. Stay adaptable, review, adjust, um, and you know, make sure that you are looking at the obstacles that you need to get around, that kind of thing. Stay aligned with your vision. Always bring your A game. Know your assignment, be in alignment with it, be in agreement with it, give attention to it. So always bring your A game there. So where we left off last week, I was talking about the fact that once you do self-reflection, what it does is it helps to give you clarity in a multiplicity of areas. And so there are 5 areas that I talked about. Number one was clarity of purpose, which is your focus, clarity of understanding. It's free of chaos or, any blurred lines, any ambiguity. Clarity of communication, you can easily communicate and people can understand what you're talking about. Clarity of conscience, that's doing the right thing without guilt or regret. And then the last area is clarity of vision, that's sharp focus. So where I want to hang my hat tonight is clarity of purpose. That's the focus because that's where we got to start, right? That self-reflection, that introspection. I gave you some areas to kind of start, kind of working your way through that. That's journaling, meditation, and mindfulness, values assessment, and then always looking at your strengths and your weaknesses, maximizing on your strengths, employing your weaknesses, but being aware of both. So I kind of want to get into this further, get into this piece um, on the clarity of purpose. So let me just share some of my notes and then I got a few minutes. So I'm going to be on time tonight. Wherever I cut off at, we'll find a stopping point. We'll pick back up. We'll keep this thing going and we'll continue to unpack it. Before I get into that, though, let me just take a minute and see if I got anybody in the chat. Got any questions? Y'all good? Okay. All right. Let's keep it moving. I don't see any questions. So, the essence of having clarity of purpose is understanding why you do what you do. Okay. It's about having a deep sense of direction. And I've talked about this before, and meaning that guides your actions, your decisions, and ultimately your life. That's the thing. So your life, your business, whatever it is that you're working on, but ultimately it is the fact that you have the ability to guide your actions, guide your decisions, and guide your life. It provides focus, motivation, and resilience in the face of challenges. Well, what better time do we need to have clarity of purpose? Because there are all kind of challenges happening on all kinds of levels for people in all types of situations on all levels, which I just said earlier. So when you have clarity of purpose, you're not just going through the motions. You are moving with intentionality towards a meaningful goal. So I've been having this conversation even with my daughter in my house, and it's about, there's some things we strategically need to think about in this season because there's so much uncertainty. So because you don't know what is going to happen, and of course there's uncertainty all the time, but the nature of the plight in time that we're in, the uncertainty is at a heightened level. So as a result of that, we have to be at a heightened level of being strategic about how we're moving, how we're flowing, how we're handling our businesses, how we're handling our homes. what we're doing, how we're moving, how we're flowing. What's our strategy for our finances? What's our strategy for our business? What's our strategy for our children? What's our strategy for how we're going to manage things in this time of uncertainty? Now, not the fact that as a people we hadn't been here before, because we have. But at the end of the day, different times call for different things, and different seasons calls for different things. So here again, we have to make sure that we are bathing everything in prayer, and that we're being very conscientious about what we're doing, and that we're taking this opportunity to exercise getting clarity of purpose. So let's talk about that and break that down a little bit more. Here again, this is the agile waterfall methodologies, project management kind of thought process that I kind of flow in. So when we're defining clarity and purpose, so I want to talk about both of them, and then I want to talk about where clarity and purpose collide, because they do. So when we're talking about clarity, that's being super clear, simple, easily understood. You can express yourself with extreme clarity. Child could understand what you're saying and where you're going. So you have this sharp. There are a few areas here. It causes you to have this sharp, distinct, and unambiguous understanding of something. So there's no gray areas. There's no chaos. There's no confusion. It's like, did he understand what he said? Did she understand what she said? No, it's clear. It makes sense, and you thought it through, right? Because you've done this self-reflection, right? So in the context of purpose, clarity means knowing precisely what you're aiming for. What's that why? So there's no vagueness, no confusion, no chaos. It is absolutely clear. Now, with that being said, this is the caveat. Because we have clarity doesn't mean that how we think things should work out is how they're going to work out, simply because we're clear. But what it does do, it gives us clarity to the extent that we can pivot, we can make adjustments, and we can do whatever we need to do based on the current circumstance and situation we may find ourselves in. Because life's always going to have change, it's always going to have challenges, and there's always going to be situations, and somebody's always going to have a situation. It's always going to be a situation. So situations and circumstances, all these things will occur on a consistent basis. Why? Because that's life, and that's how life is. So it knowing our why, and this is what we get to. That's where the clarity comes into play. It involves understanding values, passions, strengths. We talked about these things, and how to align in order to create that meaningful impact. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, that you're clear on what your impact is supposed to be and who that audience is that you're impacting. That is the focus. That's key. So now, purpose. Purpose is the reason for which something is done or is created, or why something exists, right? So we got clarity, being really clear about why we exist and why it is that we are doing what we're doing. Do you know why you're doing what you're doing? It's the why behind your actions. And so whenever you're in a position where you're doing something, you're not quite sure why you're doing it, you got to check that, because you're not clear. And you don't want to, and there are times we can trip up and we can find ourselves in that position, but you shouldn't find yourself in that position on a consistent basis. That you're doing some things and you don't know why you're doing it. You spending money, you don't know why you're spending that. If you're hungry, then you spending money to eat, then you know why you spend the money, because you're hungry and you need to eat, right? You need groceries. But if you got, if you have the ability to do something, but you just it's just willy-nilly, and you don't have a why, you don't have a purpose by why you're doing it, that's concerning. So it's the overarching aim that gives meaning to your life, to your work, to what you do. So when you think about it, what is it that gives me energy? I can do this. I can wake up in the middle of the night, and I can do it without, you know, exerting any energy at all. It doesn't make me tired. I'm not frustrated. I don't get lethargic when it's time to do it. I mean, this is like my heartbeat. You know you're functioning in purpose. When you can go and do a thing every day, whether you're getting paid for it or not, you know your purpose to do it and you're called to it. So analyze where you are and what you're doing. Because a lot of times when people are expressing themselves and sharing about some of the things they're doing, but there's no fear and there's no passion, and their eyes don't light up. It always causes me to pause. Is this really the thing that you are called in purpose to do? Because if it's not, it will always wear you down and you will feel like I can't do it you know but when it is, you can do it in the midst of challenges, you can do it in the midst of adversities, you can do it in the midst of struggle, you can do it in the midst of naysaying and naysayers. You can do it it doesn't matter what it is, you can still do what you're called and purpose to do because you're called to it, your purpose for it, right? um and this is the thing about purpose, it is always bigger than you. It ain't even about you. Because when you are called in purpose to a thing, whatever that thing is, it's not about you at all. You're called to do it and your purpose to do it because there's the thing that God put in you, place in you for somebody else. And it contributes to something much larger than your own immediate needs or desires. You can do it and it not be a need for you or a desire for you, but because it is a need for somebody else and a desire for somebody else to be impacted by you, you're called and purpose to do it. So that's really, really key. Okay. So, okay, I think I can get through this next piece. So where clarity and purpose collides, clarity of purpose is the intersection of understanding what your purpose is, your why, we just talked about the why, and having a clear vision of how to pursue it or how to get to it. That's where they come together, clarity, purpose. And which is one of the things that we're going to drill down on in the Clarity Conversation Live event that's coming up March 29th. I can't wait. This is going to be absolutely phenomenal. It's going to be good because Coach Spence and I, we feed off of each other in that way. And so this is really, I think, going to bring some stuff home for some people and just the energy that comes when we're in person and we're in the same place. It just really um, catapults things to a different level. But this is where clarity and purpose, this is where they collide. Clarity of purpose is the intersection of understanding what your purpose is. What is the why? Why am I here? What am I to be doing? Why am I to be doing it? And having a clear vision of how you're going to pursue that. Let that sink in. Think about where you are. Think about what you're doing. And has purpose and clarity collided? Has that intersection, have you crossed that intersection or are you at that intersection? Because if you've not crossed that intersection or gotten to that intersection where those two things interchangeably have collided, then you got to think about that. And if you're off kilter, that may be why, is because clarity and purpose haven't collided, because they should. You have a general sense of purpose. So this is like when you just, like I said earlier, you're doing something, but you know why you're doing it. Or you're general in your approach. I want to help people. Okay, what people? Men, women, children, boys, girls, teens, adolescents, toddlers, babies. It's that it gets that clear. All right. But without clarity, the purpose remains abstract. So you just people, it's a whole lot of people. Say big people on the planet. People. You got to know who be the people. Who be the people. Let me check again and make sure I don't have any questions because I want to make sure um that if I do, I address them. Okay. No questions in the chat. Okay, good. All right. So we have to be really, really clear about what our purpose is. Then clarity provides the specifics, right? So Purpose is knowing the why, but then clarity gives you like really clear, right? So knowing who your people are, how you gonna help the people, what skills you gonna use to help the people, how is it that you're hoping to impact the people, right? That's clarity. So my purpose is knowing that I'm supposed to help business owners, aspiring, new, existing, right? My clarity provides my specifics. I help them with structure, I help them with strategies, I help them with systems, and I help them to get extreme clarity. So clarity and purpose, this is the bridge between a general aspiration and a concrete. So when you hear people generalizing, and when I hear people generalizing, it always leads me as a coach to start asking certain questions because at the end of the day, it lets me know that the individual is not clear. So I wanna stop there. There's some scriptural references I want to kind of go into to just give you that spiritual base and foundation. I'll get into that next time, and it's going to bring us right back to self-reflection and the time we spend reflecting on our values, our passions, our talents, and our experiences. But I want to stop there tonight, and I hope that what I have shared has been beneficial to you. I'll run back through what I covered tonight just as a high level, but go back and make sure that you take your time, take your notes, and then think these pieces through. See, this is something that in my opinion, you can't rush through. Um, you're gonna find it's just like when you're cleaning out a closet, you're gonna find some things you want to keep, but you're gonna find some things that you don't need to keep. There's some things that you no longer have use for, right? You can't fit them, they don't fit you. I don't care how you want to get in them jeans. It's over, baby. Just, give them to somebody else, pass it on. And you're gonna find things that will challenge you, okay, I could keep it, but could somebody else really use it? Because I don't really have to have this piece. So it's almost a closet kind of perspective. You have to do this self-reflection because it's important to help keep us on point and help us keep us on our toes for life in general. And I know for me, I have to continue to challenge myself to do it on because we can get busy and we don't do it and we find ourselves being a little off kilter. And for me, that's why, because haven't taken the time to declutter, get stuff out of my brain, get it on paper, do some self-reflection and figure out, okay, where am I? What do I need to do so that I can just flow and be free, right? Um, so we define clarity and purpose. We talked about the purpose of each of those. Clarity refers to the quality of being understood, easily expressing yourself. Purpose is then the reason for which something is created or exists. Then we talked about where clarity and purpose collides. And then I gave a framework, of course, for vision, which of course is vision is for visualize, I is identify, S is simplify, I is implement, O is organize, and N is navigate. So you can go back and you can grab those notes and I gave a summary from last week. But listen, we're going to keep unpacking this thing. We're going to keep going. And we're going to keep talking about this self work framework and how it's going to help us to get through um, um, the time and the season that we're in. It's going to help us to establish strategies. It's going to help us to be really, really clear about who we are, where we are, why we're doing what we're doing, and the purpose for which we exist to do what we do. So, those specifics is the clarity. Understanding your why is the purpose. Those two ought to collide. And at that intersection is where we ought to be able to see that taking place because that's where you have the why and the clear vision of how to pursue it. So that's the intersection of clarity and purpose. So self-reflection, we still got a little bit more to go on it. But definitely go back and watch from January 1st. If you just started January 1st and forward, that's going to catch you up. And so you can listen to this on your way to work, at night when you're winding down or whatever the case may be, and get caught up. But really take the opportunity to take yourself on a journey of doing the self work. Because at the end of the day, if you do it, I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did. All right. But listen, I want to share a couple of things with you really quick, and I'm out of here. There's still the opportunity to be a part of the Vision Room. That's my coaching and mentoring group. We have an amazing time. Oh, I'm telling you, these presentations and self-development have been amazing this year. You can be a part of that coaching and mentoring program, that group. It's an intimate group. We meet twice live, twice a month. And right now we are on this quest of personal development. I'm telling you, people are making some significant progress in preparing themselves. They're not going to have to get ready. They're going to already be ready. And so I'm excited about what's happening. And it's some amazing talents and gifts, and we're learning from each other. That's only $49 a month. You can go to the website at bridgetmoody.com/mentoring, and you will see all about the program and how to get connected and get enrolled. So that's that. And then this weekend, I'm so excited to be a part of. I am one of the speakers for the Big Impact International Entrepreneur Summit taking place here in downtown Dallas. And so I'm excited to be a part of this event and to be one of the speakers. If you're in the DFW Metroplex, you can definitely go to my page, whether that's on LinkedIn, Facebook, and or Instagram. And you can find out how to get tickets and be a part of this event. I'd love to see you there. But if you can't be there, then make sure you say a word of prayer for me. All right. As I share with this group of attendees about strategy for 2025. And so I'm excited. It's going to be amazing. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have the Clarity Conversations live event, which is the Vision Clarity Accelerator that's taking place. And this is a continuation of the Pen to Paper 25 experience. And so we will have a live event 10 to 2. It's a workshop, Vision Clarity Accelerator, taking place on March 29th, right here in the DFW Metroplex. All that information is on the website at bridgetmoody.com/events. So go to the events tab and you can get registered for that. So we have registration at the $47 level, and then the Elite is 97, which comes with a 30-minute coaching session for you, and then you get 14 days of actual support. So you can't beat it with a stick. That's a good deal. So listen, lottie dottie, everybody, tell everybody about it, right? And get connected. And I want to see you there. And so if you've registered, tell somebody else about it. Will you do that? All right. And if this help you and if it's helping you, will you tell somebody about it? How about this? Why don't you just share the link and say, hey, go check this out. Check out Tuesday Motivation and Conversation with Bridget Moody, Coach Bridget, and she'll help you to get a little bit of clarity. All right. Well, until next time, thank you so much for joining me for Tuesday Motivation and Conversation. I'll see you right back here next week, same time, same place. Have a good night.